Hi guys. So today we are going to be joined by Dr. Ken Berry. We have so many questions that you guys have turned in, and I'm super excited to get an opportunity to just talk to him and to ask these questions. It's not every day that we get to just tap into the mind of a doctor, and really get to talk to him. So this is a very cool experience. Hello.
Hey, Emily, how's it going?
Very good. How are you?
Doing great. It's a pleasure to chat with you.
Yes, it's a pleasure to chat with you too. I was actually just looking at the map and realized I'm in Southeast Missouri and you're in West Tennessee. So we're only like 4 hours away from each other.
Yeah, it's just a quick drive over. We'll have to do a live together in person.
Oh, that would be so cool. I would love it. So do you want to just jump right in? Because as soon as I asked for questions for Dr. Ken Berry, it was like drinking from a fire hydrant.
Yeah, let's just jump right in. If you've got a list of questions, we'll just go down, and if we see any good questions pop up in the comments, then we'll answer them as we go. We'll answer as many as we can.
Okay, sounds good. Well, you're in charge of the news feed because I'm gonna be reading these questions.
Okay.
Okay, just stop me if you need to.
Will do.
All right. The first question is mine because I just got to put it at the top of the list.
Okay.
What does it feel like to go from being a doctor practicing modern medicine to now being able to practice as you do currently?
Well, it's really a mixed feeling because being able to help people like Nisha and I can now in a very inexpensive manner. You don't need thousands of dollars worth of medications. You don't need thousands of dollars worth of supplements, treatments, therapies. You just don't need that. You just need to remove the following fake pseudo foods from your diet and add the following real foods back to your diet. And then all the natural processes of the human body are able to take back over, because the default for the human body is vibrant health. That's our default setting. And it's only if you're mucking up your system by adding things you shouldn't be adding or by excluding things that should be included. That's how we muck up our physiology, and that's what leads to the vast majority of chronic disease. So in that respect, I'm very happy that we were able to kind of transition and evolve into doing what we do now. I'll never go back to practicing just regular allopathic medicine. But the second feeling is shame and guilt and sadness to know
Really?
that yeah, for the first few years of my medical practice, I gave
Oh,
advice to people that harmed them. And so really the vast majority of what I do today is as a way of penance, as a way of redemption for the damage that I caused when I was giving the ignorant, idiotic, dangerous advice that I used to give to my patients in the clinic. And now, to be fair, the advice I was giving was the guidelines. I was telling diabetics to follow the ADA and people with heart disease and hypertension to follow the AHA. And looking back now, it's very obvious I did harm by giving that advice. And so the bulk of what I do these days and for the foreseeable future is an atonement for my past failings.
hmm. That's so good, but that's so powerful for other doctors, now that they know and they can kind of follow your model to recognize that what they're practicing is a broken model, and that they can step out and really do no harm,
Right.
really actually stand by that oath and heal.
Yeah, and because I really think that doctors, any healthcare provider, you need to understand, you took an oath to do no harm. You didn't say, oh, well, unless the guidelines are causing harm, in which case, I've got to practice I've got to practice the guidelines. I've got to follow the algorithm. Well, are you an autonomous human being or are you a robot? Because if you're a robot, then I guess follow the algorithm. But if you're a human being and you've taken an oath and you have a fiduciary relationship to your patients, then you better be thinking about every single piece of advice you give every patient every day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I am so glad that you and Nisha are doing what you're doing, and that you have just really taken it to another level. And I recognize that as we know better, we do better. But I understand the penance. I understand what you're talking about. Next question is, are spices with keto and carnivore good, bad, or ugly?
For the vast majority of people, they're probably fine. But now I know several people in the carnivore community that pepper and any of the other spices will cause inflammation rather abruptly that they can detect. And I have a few friends in the carnivore community who have to eat what's called the lion diet, which is just ruminant meat, salt, and water. Now, are you
That's
one of
what I
those?
eat.
Yeah, yeah,
That's all I eat.
yeah, and I think that's fine. I hope you're able to include some organ meat occasionally in your diet. There's no proof that that's necessary, but out of just an abundance of caution for for the vitamins and minerals, I feel like try your best to learn to like liver. But I think for the vast majority of people, people who follow me on my YouTube, they know I'm always talking about the normal distribution curve, right? And so the vast majority of people under the curve, spices are not a big deal, but there's a few people over here on this tail where spices can cause inflammation for them. And it can be inflammation in the joints, in the gut, in the skin, and even mentally, it can affect some people.
Yeah, I don't eat liver. And I literally all I eat is grass-fed, grass-finished regenerative beef and beef fat. So what would you suggest would be a minimum of what I should eat for liver?
It's a great question, and I don't think any of us know for sure, because I know carnivores in the community who have not eaten a bite of liver in 10 years. And they seem to be doing very well. And so hear me carefully. I'm by no means saying it's mandatory, that it's required, that you have to do this. I'm just saying if you look back at hunter-gatherer societies, the organ meat was always prized very highly. And I don't know of a single example of a hunter-gatherer society that was studied that wasn't the case. And I think that when we first evolved from herbivores to frugivores into meat eaters, I think one of the main ways we did that was by scavenging. We were able to break the bones and break the skull and get to the brain and get to the bone marrow. And so there are nutrients in bone marrow and in brain that definitely just don't occur in very large quantities at all in the fat in the lean meat of any ruminant. Now, ruminant meat, if you're going to get away with just eating the lean meat and the fat, it's going to be with ruminant animals. I totally agree with that 100%. But especially if they're having to eat, for whatever reason, chicken and pork as their carnivore, you better learn to like liver, I think.
Well, I might have to experiment with it and just, see how I feel. I feel pretty superhuman as it is, but
right. And so,
who's to say there's not more?
That's the ultimate litmus test. If you feel great, which you say you do, if you look great, which you do, if your performance is great, then, maybe you could feel even more better, maybe.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. And so I think it might, for all carnivores, if you're not currently a liver eater, I just broke my fast at 3:30 p.m. I ate 2 pounds of 70-30 ground beef, and I ate the liver and the heart from a wild turkey that Nisha's dad shot yesterday because turkey season just opened. And so that's what I broke my fast with today. Now, if that liver and heart was unnecessary for my nutrition, it was still quite tasty, and I'm happy that I ate it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And talk about fresh. It was just killed yesterday. That is super cool.
Yep. Beckett, our 2.5-year-old little ketovore baby, he helped Pedro, his granddad, he helped him clean the turkey and get the heart and the liver. And he was doing a little anatomy lesson while he was helping them clean the turkey.
That's incredible. That's incredible. That's the way to live, man. He is living his best life for sure. The next question is, my husband was in the hospital with COVID pneumonia with intubation from November 2021 to January 2022.
Wow.
He developed neuropathy in both feet. I got him to start carnivore late February, early March. Do you think it'll ever go away?
Maybe. That's a long time to be intubated. He obviously had a severe case, and he probably had many other risk factors and many other morbidities that are going along with that. And so he did quite a bit of damage to the C cells and the C fibers and the other peripheral nerves. I would suspect that it's going to improve and it's going to take months, because he's probably going to have to regrow his myelin sheath. He may have to actually regenerate and regrow some of the small nerve fibers themselves, which is possible, but it's going to take months. And it may never go completely away, but it should get substantially better, especially since he's eating a proper human diet.
Well, and for him to rebuild the myelin, wouldn't it make sense for him to have more fat?
100%. Yeah. Fat. He needs all the collagen. He needs to eat the gristle out of every piece of meat. If he eats ribs, he needs to eat the membrane off the back of the ribs. If he eats any kind of seafood, he needs to be eating the skin and the bones. I mean, he needs to be eating the real stuff and not just picking around the edge and saying, "Ooh, I don't like the fat of the gristle." No, you need to dig in.
Dig in. All right. And the next question is, how do you know when your body has done complete optimization and is at its perfect weight and composition?
You don't.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I mean, there's just no way. That's one of those unknowable things. And so what I tell everybody is, just do better today than you did yesterday. That's literally the secret formula for success in any area of life. Just do a little bit better today than you did yesterday. And so if you check all your metabolic markers, right? You check your waist to height ratio, you check your A1C, you check your C-peptide, your fasting insulin, your uric acid, your homocysteine, your markers of inflammation. If they're all better now than they were 3 months ago, that's it. That's a home run. You did it. That's a victory, right? Now, but obviously at some point you will optimize all of those markers and you won't be able to improve them anymore. But remember, I said earlier, the default setting for human health is optimal health. And so, and now that obviously that it matters your age, it matters your past indiscretions, it matters your current indiscretions, it matters your stress level, your sleep level, all kinds of different things factor into this. Probably hundreds of things factor into this. And so all you can do is do the best you can each day, buy the best meat you can afford, get the best sleep you can get out and be as active, go outside and play and have fun as much as you can. Do that, and then tomorrow plan on doing just a little bit better than you did today. And it won't be many months, my friend, until you feel pretty damn amazing.
Absolutely. Great answer. I love that. The next question is grass-fed, grass-finished that much better for you?
This question has tore up many a carnivore, right? Yeah. So it's kind of a long answer. So let's go through this. First of all, yes, it is. From the research, it looks like it's 3 to 6% better from an omega-3 to omega-6 standpoint. Also, grass-finished beef actually has substantial levels of phytonutrients, polyphenols, and other things they're still present in the grain-finished beef, but they're not as high level. That's absolutely true. But now let's talk about just the cheapest beef you can buy at China Mart, okay? Even that cow grazed on grass for 70, 80% of its life. And it was brought into the feedlot the last 10, 20, 30% of its life and was fed a mixture. Now, even in the feedlots, it's not 100% grain that they're getting fed. It's still a mixture of stalks, of grass, of hay, of other legumes, but then definitely mixed in is some corn and some soy, and they'll even put candy in there. Like if there's defective candy, they'll put that in the mix. But even the cows in the feedlot are still eating a substantial portion of their diet is the same exact thing they would be eating if they were out on pasture. But 100% true, a feedlot finished beef is not going to be as nutritious. Now, with all that being said, now we start talking about practical matters like who the hell can afford $22 a pound ribeye, right?
Yeah.
And so then people of limited means, of which there are many, and I suspect there will be a growing number in the coming months, if what I'm foreseeing happening is happening.
Yep.
You've got to listen to me carefully. And I said it once before, but I'm going to say it again. You've got to eat the best quality you can afford. Okay? So if currently now, or if in the future, all you can afford is damn Vienna sausage, which we call Viennes here in the South, and bologna and cheap hot dogs, if that's all you can afford, then that is 100 times better.
Yep.
Than bread and Doritos and Ding Dongs and Special K cereal. Is it as good as you could possibly do if you could afford $30 a pound beef? No, you could, yeah, that's healthier, no doubt. But all you can do is the best you can do. And if all you can afford right now is the cheap, the big 5-pound sticks of ground beef that you used to buy if all you can afford is the 70-30 ground beef, get it. That's it. Eat the hell out of it. That is so much better for you than the breaded chicken strips and then all the other crap that you could be eating.
Absolutely. And also I think about the bigger picture of what it's doing for the land.
Mm-hmm.
That
yes.
Are we going to have, good soil and the aquifers and everything else in 30 years?
And that's very, very important to me because I happen to be a human being who lives on planet Earth. So I would like for this Earth to stay healthy and get better and actually improve its health because we've done a bit of damage. And I'm right in the middle of regenerative ranching right now. I've got a flock of, I think we have 16 St. Croix sheep right now.
Wow.
And I'm rotating through the pasture, and I just went out and I set up a new paddock this morning, and Beckett and Nisha went over and they watched me and we got 4 little lambs, and they watched them jump around and play. And so I'm 100% committed to not sustainable, because sustainable, that you're breaking even. I'm talking about regenerative.
Yes.
I want to in a few years on this farm, I want to have a foot of topsoil on this, where when we bought it, there was maybe 1 inch of topsoil. I want to build the topsoil. I want to have grass that will make Greg Judy jealous when he drives by and he sees it, right? He's up the road from you. And that's what I'm trying to do with this patch of land. And so I would encourage everyone. That's why I want you to say, I can afford to buy better quality meat, but I'm going to buy a better cell phone and still keep buying the cheap 70-30 feedlot beef. If you can afford to do better, then I think it's your duty to buy the grass finished, regenerative, right? Antibiotic free, steroid free. I think it's your duty, because the more of us, if we can afford it, when we buy that, you're voting with your dollars, right? And you're actually increasing the demand. Because when ranchers see, oh my God, you sell your beef for how much a pound? What? They're like, how do you do that? How can I do that? Then all of a sudden, you've converted a conventional feedlot guy. Now he's doing regenerative ranching, right? And so all of us who can afford to do better should do better, because you're actually making the world a better place when you buy that more expensive beef, the more expensive pasture chicken, any of the stuff. When you buy that, you're voting with your dollars, and you're telling a young guy he's faced with a choice. Well, I could go into tech, or I could be a regenerative rancher, right? And then all of a sudden he's like, no, man, they're making a good living with this regenerative ranching. I think I'm going to do that. And you just converted another farm that's been farmed to death and tilled to death. Now you're some young guy, some young buck is out there rotating his cattle, rotating his sheep, rotating his chickens, the ancestral way, and you're rebuilding the earth. And so by buying that better quality meat, if you can afford it, you're actually making the world a better place.
Wow. Talk about a patriotic choice.
100%.
Save the
100%.
land.
If you love your community, if you love your country, no matter what country you're watching this from, then your patriotic duty is to make the land healthy, to thicken the topsoil, to keep all of the native species flourishing, right? And so when I cleared all of my understory to make silvopasture, I didn't just burn the brush. I made brush piles so I could have a habitat for rabbits and squirrels and chipmunks and bird nests, right? Because all that stuff matters in the circle of life. And I mean, I could talk about this for 3 hours. Don't get me started.
Good.
That's my second love. My first great love is Nisha. Second great love is medicine. Third great love is regenerative ranching.
I love it. Well, we'll definitely have to have a live just about that because
100%.
I could talk about that forever. Needy Valley, Needy the pharmacist
Yeah.
has taught me everything. Once I read her book, it was over.
Yep.
Like it totally changed my whole look on that.
She's
Farm
amazing.
to Fork Meat Riot. So yeah, I think it's really important. And with our economy, the way it's going, you don't know what China Mart's going to do and what China Mart's going to have. You better go get a relationship with your farmer.
100%. And here's something that everybody needs to understand. If hard times do come, and guys,
they're coming.
You
mean when?
Yeah. Now there's two different, and I'm talk about this in my book I'm writing called The Proper Human Diet. There's a starvation diet. If you're starving to death, then you 100% should eat the wheat and the rice and the soybeans, right? You should eat the sugar. Because your alternative is to die. And that's what grains have been since recorded history began. Those are starvation foods. If you have prisoners or slaves, prisoners of war, if you have serfs that you're just like, I want to keep them alive and keep them healthy enough so they can work, but I don't have any desire for them to have optimal health. I certainly don't want them to have optimal mental function, because if they do, they're liable to overthrow my ass and take over, right? So that's level one of nutrition, is not starving to death and dying. Those foods are great for that. And it may come to the point in the next few months or few years where your option is you either eat the puffed rice and the wheat pasta, or you starve to death. In which case, I highly recommend you eat the puffed rice and eat the grain pasta, because I don't want you to die. But if you can do better than that, if you want to optimize your health, both physically and mentally, you've got to eat a proper human diet, which does not consist of any grains, does not consist of sugar, and does not consist of vegetable seed oils. Those things are starvation foods. If you can't do any better, you eat those. If you can do better, you better do better.
Absolutely. And so many times I'm working with people and they're addicted to the wheat and the everything else and the sugar. And I talk to them and I'm like, but you're royalty. You are the queen. You are the king. Why are you eating peasant food?
Yeah, 100%.
Like you want to sustain and be thriving.
Yeah. If you want to be a peasant, if you want to be a serf, if you want to be a slave and eat that diet, okay. But another sad part of this, Emily, is that there's a lot of people out there that think that eating the grains is actually good for the earth, good for the planet. And that's so wrong. It's so incorrect. And that's part of my mission, is to help people understand, when I'm rotating these sheep through pasture and they're literally fertilizing the ground for me, so I'm not having to buy the chemical fertilizer that's shipped from all over the world, that's making the world a better place, right? When I harvest one of these sheep and we fill up our freezer with that nutritious, heavenly meat, I didn't have, there were no semi trucks involved. There were no cargo ships involved. It was just me. It was just a boy and his sheep and a bunch of grass. That's all it was. There was no gasoline required to do that.
That's the dream. That's the dream. I love it. Next question is, once you are fat adapted, is fasting necessary on the carnivore diet?
It's probably not necessary. But what you're probably going to find is, like me, I ate my last meal last night at, 7 p.m. and I've been out on the farm all day. And when I'm out working, I never think about eating. I'm just not hungry, right? And so I came in and I broke my fast, and I talk about it that way. Even though I might not need to fast anymore, there are so many millions of people suffering from metabolic disease that they need to hear that. They need to understand that is normal, that's acceptable, that's completely ancestrally appropriate to do a fast like that every single day. And so somebody eating a strict carnivore diet and eating till they're comfortably stuffed, I think they're just going to naturally do a daily intermittent fast of 14, 16, 18 hours without even trying, without even thinking about it. Now, if somebody's severely obese or very overweight and they've got type 2 diabetes and fatty liver and hypertension and metabolic syndrome, they would probably benefit from doing a 48, 72-hour fast once a week, once every 2 weeks, once a month. But if somebody's approaching their ideal body weight and they're eating a very uninflammatory diet, which I consider the carnivore diet, the ketovore diet, and a properly formulated ketogenic diet, I think they're very uninflammatory, right? And so I think you may not need to do longer fasts, but I think that you're still going to do some degree of an intermittent daily fast just because you're just not hungry.
Absolutely. Thank you. That was perfect. And that's what I find for me personally is I just prefer not to eat sometimes. I feel better because I'm just so full.
When you break the sugar and the carbohydrate addiction, then food becomes, it's still enjoyable to eat.
Yeah.
But it's not some kind of rapturous pleasure, right? It's just, it tastes good. And so really you don't want to eat because it's kind of a waste of time. It's like, I got shit to do. I gotta rotate the sheep. I got to move this thing. I got to go get that. I got to do this. I don't have time to sit down and eat. The average person would have, this would have been their second meal and their second snack of the day, and I'm just eating the first time. And so it frees up all this time for you to be productive and actually do things that should give you pleasure. And everybody listening, if eating your food each day, if that's the biggest pleasure of your day, you, my friend, have a problem that you need to work on. You either need to improve the other part of your life or you need to break the food addiction, because no one listening to this, no one on the planet, the height of their day, the biggest pleasure they have of the day should be eating a meal. That's not how it's supposed to be.
And I would say you're missing out because there's so much more to life than eating. Whenever I found food freedom and I wasn't controlled by food every day, I was like, oh my gosh, what else can I do with my time?
Yeah. It's like, hey,
what else can I do with my thoughts?
Yeah, let's go outside and play because I don't have to stay near the kitchen in case I get a craving.
Exactly. This next question is from Karen Miles. She says, in a YouTube, I had paid to send you a message saying that if you have a leg cramp, especially at night, tighten your abdominal muscles. Many times it makes it go away. You said you wanted to get a cramp to try it. Did you get a cramp yet?
Not yet. No, good question. I remember that question. I have not, and that's probably been a month or two ago. And I have not had a cramp at all since then. I typically don't get muscle cramps anymore. About the only time I'll ever get one is if I go out and I'm really working like a dog on the farm for 10 or 12 hours of physical labor that I'm not used to. Then that night I might get a cramp. But no, I don't get cramps, muscle cramps like I used to. I just don't get them anymore. But I do wish that I would get one more so I could try this abdominal muscle trick and see if that actually helps me.
Well, and she says, did you figure out why it works?
I have no idea other than distraction, but muscle cramps they're not mental events. And so I don't know how distraction would help. That's actually a physiological event taking place at the cellular level. So I don't know how distraction would work. I can't imagine that it would shift your electrolytes if you tensed up your abdominal muscles. So I'm not sure how it works. That's why I wanted to try it. So I could be like, hey, what's going on here?
Awesome. The next question is, I have been a strict carnivore since June of last year. I wasn't overweight, but I have been gaining weight. I lift, but I know it's not all muscle. Should I cut back on the fat? I have been on a 1-to-1 ratio feeding. I'm 6'2", up, and I eat approximately 1,800 calories a day. All labs are fine. Any advice, please?
Yeah, 1,800 calories for a man.
At
That's not
six
enough.
foot two.
That's not enough food. You're under
No,
eating, and you probably have slowed down your metabolic rate. You're under eating.
I agree.
Let me just tell you this. Ansel Keys, we all know and hate him, right?
Yes.
Because of the fat heart hypothesis. But he actually did some really good research that most people don't know about. He did the Minnesota starvation experiment. During the war back in the 40s, there were a lot of men who were conscientious objectors. They weren't going to, they were nonviolent. And so the government said, okay, you either can go to war or you can go to prison or you can go to Minnesota and Ansel Keys will starve you. And we're gonna basically experiment on you and see what happens when we starve people. And so you either go get your brains blown out or you donate your body to science. And so they said, okay, I'll go to Minnesota. So Ansel was not feeding these guys. And these guys were all healthy, normal weight, normal mental. I mean, these were just normal guys, probably a little bit above average IQ, right? Because they're too smart to go get their head blown off.
Yeah.
Right. And so he did not starve them how you would think, oh, he just locked them in a room and didn't feed them. He was giving them 1,600 calories a day. That was the starvation diet. And when people hear that, they're like, wait, when I do my calorie counting, that I'm supposed to do, yeah. And so these normal young men who were previously physically and mentally very healthy, they developed eating disorders. They developed obsessions with food. They developed all kinds of weird mental illness type habits. It really messed them up. And even for years after that, two of the guys went on to become chefs after the experiment. And previously, they had no interest in food whatsoever. They were literally going to be like a business manager and something else in business. They both went to culinary school because they were so obsessed with food after the starvation experiment. And the definition of starvation was they were getting only 200 calories a day less than our friend's question. So I would say you need to up the fat and up the protein and eat until you're comfortably stuffed. That's going to help your body understand that there's not a famine and that it can actually raise your metabolic rate back up.
Absolutely. I'm 5'8" and 140 pounds, and I eat about 3,000 calories a day.
Yeah, I easily eat 3,000, 3,500 calories every single day without even, like, I'm not trying to do that.
No.
But like maybe once every month or two, Nisha she'll want to count some macros or something, which we don't do on a daily basis. And she'll be like, okay, tell me everything you eat. And she'll add it up. And she's like, holy shit, you ate 3,700 calories today. How are you not fat as a house?
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, it's almost like calories don't count, isn't it?
You think? Yeah, because I eat about half a pound of fat a day. And so that's where I get most of my calories.
Yep.
And then, a pound and a half of meat. So
love it. Love it. Keep doing that. I think it's working for you.
Oh yeah, I'm thriving. The next question is, I'm only 5 weeks pregnant. I'm strict carnivore. I feel great. I have good energy, but I notice that my heart flutters or has an odd beat every now and then. It makes me feel lightheaded. Is this something I need to check out with my doctor, or is it normal? Also, are pregnancy vitamins still okay on the carnivore diet?
Yeah, the pregnancy vitamins are okay on a carnivore diet, but I would, this is another instance where I would highly encourage this young lady to learn to like liver.
Yeah.
Okay. Because liver is a multivitamin. If she could just eat 2 ounces of liver twice a week, that would be it. Okay. Liver's so rich in choline and folate and just hundreds of other things. Still take your prenatal, and that's basically you're taking that for your doctor, so they'll shut up and leave you alone. But you want to get real vitamins and minerals, and you want to get that from your food. I would highly encourage you to eat until you are comfortably stuffed. Do not calorie count. Do not portion control. If you're hungry, woman, then you need to eat. And if you're still hungry, woman, you need to eat some more. Okay, you're not eating for 2, you're eating for 1.2. That's actually the physiological math, but you do not need to portion control at all. You need to eat until you can't hold another bite while you're pregnant. I think a carnivore diet with at least 4 ounces of liver a week is 100% sufficient for growing a beautiful, beautiful, healthy, intelligent baby. Beckett, our 2.5-year-old, if you want to see what a baby that his mother, she was 90% carnivore the entire pregnancy, 90 to 100% carnivore all through the 2 years he breastfed. And now he's a 90% carnivore. He's a ketovore. And so if you want to see what a baby who's eaten that way and been fed that way and built that way looks like, check out my wife's channel on YouTube. It's Nisha Loves It. And he actually helped her. What did they cook? Oh, they cooked quail eggs and bacon the other morning. He's got a little tower. He gets up there and with these little utensils, and he helps cook his own breakfast. That's what a 2.5-year-old should be acting like if they've been fed properly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Beckett is living his best life for sure.
100%. 100%. Let's do one more, Emily, and then I'm going to have to go because I got another thing coming up.
Awesome.
Is that okay? Okay.
Yeah, no, that's perfectly fine. How do you respond to patients who say things like, I just don't think you should cut out entire food groups because giving up fruits is such an offense to so many people?
Yeah. People have a religious feeling, a fervor when it comes to fruits, especially bananas. If you want to piss off a bunch of people, get on Twitter or YouTube and say that bananas are not a health food. Oh my goodness, they will go insane, right? Same goes for oatmeal. Same goes for apple cider vinegar. If you badmouth those things, you are from the devil, right? For so many people. And so I'm actually, let me I can't pull it up. I'm listening to a book right now that goes into detail about how fructose. That's it. It's all the chronic diseases is fructose and grains, seed oils. That's it. That's what it is. That's what's causing all this. Fruit is a great starvation food. If you're on the verge of starving, eat all the fruit. 100% agree. But if you're trying to live your best life, if you're trying to optimize your physical health and your mental health, fruit needs to be a very rare, occasional treat for you. We have 21 blueberry bushes, and when they start, they're bloomed right now. But when the blueberries get ripe, Beckett will go up there every morning. That will be his breakfast. He'll go up there barefooted, and he'll clean all 21 blueberry bushes of their blueberries. But he only gets to do that for about 3 weeks out of the whole year. And we that's it. He won't have them otherwise. And so every time we walk by, it's so hilarious, Emily, he'll say, we're going to eat more blueberries next year. And I'm like, yes, we are. That's right. But he knows, and he can't wait. But as far as eating that kind of stuff every day, in no way does that give you your optimal health. And just for a heads up, the food groups that people seem to almost worship, like these are the most sciencey things that came down on the stone tablets, right? The federal government made up the food groups. Okay, they did that back in the 20s and 30s. There used to be 7 food groups, and then there was 5, and now there's 4. Or there was 4, and now there's 5. I don't keep up with food groups, so I don't know. But should you honor all 7 food groups, or should you only honor the 5 or the 4? Which food groups are carved in stone, and which ones are just made up bullshit? Oh wait, they're all made up bullshit. Yeah.
Absolutely. Dr. Camberry, thank you for your time. It has been an honor.
Absolutely.
And I hope it's not the last time. I hope we get to talk again.
Yeah, we'll do this again. We'll have to talk about regenerative ranching. We'll have to talk about grain some more, seed oil some more. There's so much stuff that we could talk about, and it's a pleasure chatting with you, Emily. I'll see you again soon.
All right, thanks.